Hello friends, it's Morgana here today, back with another demonstration, this time for this lovely painting of mine which I'm calling Lightspill. Below you can see the colours that I used on the screen. I shall also put a comprehensive list in the video description, but for now, just going to show you here, I use Pebeo drawing gum to mask out the details that I want to keep white on this painting for now, which is the lighthouse and the small buildings beside it. You can see I just sketched this out beforehand, but it's a very simple sketch. I've put in a line where I want the horizon, a little bit of coastline, and of course my lighthouse. So I'm beginning as always by wetting the paper about 2/3 of the way down where I want my horizon line, and for this I'm using my Extra Large Ron Ranson hake brush from Pro Arte. So now that's done, my paper is nice and saturated. I'm popping on my first colour, which is some gamboge yellow, lovely and bright. And to do this, I'm using my Masterwork Aquamarine watercolour flat brush, size 10. It's quite a large one, as you can see. It moves the paper around, the paint, it moves the paint around really nicely, I think. Next, I'm adding some raw sienna, just to give a little bit of depth and a little bit of earthy goodness to that light in the sky. A little bit of shading, if you like, to the sunlight. You can see I'm just moving this colour around. My paper's lovely and wet, so it really can, I really can play with it and just get it exactly where I want it. Here, as you can see, my paper has collected a little water, so I'm just using a almost dry damp brush to just suck up that water that's appeared along the horizon line. And right there you saw me use my water spray, just wetting the top of the paper which was starting to dry out. Because my drawing board is at an angle, roughly 45 degrees, the water of course runs down, so the top part dries out before the rest. So pro tip there, folks. Spray the top of your paper whenever you feel the need to. As you can see, I've switched to another brush. This is my Escoda Ultimo synthetic mop brush in a size 10, which I love because it carries a lot of water, a lot of paint. The synthetic fibres really hold a decent volume, enabling me to get a nice amount of colour on relatively quickly. And I'm using a couple of lovely rich colours here, the ultramarine blue, which you can see along the top, and a purple colour. This is dioxazine violet, I believe I'm saying that correctly. I may just refer to it as violet for the rest of the painting. As I said, I'll put a comprehensive list of everything that I use in the video description. You can see that I'm just working the blue and the purple around the yellow, trying not to mix them too much, pushing the colours together a little bit, trying to get a little bit of cloud and shadow into that sort of bright spill of yellow light, but also focusing on getting a lovely dark, sort of rich, bluish purple, dusty sky. And now just with a little bit of balled up tissue, I'm just pulling a little bit of the bright yellow out of the centre of that light in the sky, just to add in a little bit more lightness. Just pulling that colour out, getting some of the paleness of the paper back again. Here we go again, dab, dab, dab. I'm just going to blend that in lightly. That's going to look lovely and bright in the finished painting. And now I'm beginning to use my flat brush to introduce a little bit of drifting cloud along that spill of light. And I'm using here some more scrunched up tissue, sort of rolled to a fine point. It's hard to see in the demo, I know. You know, when you sort of scrunch up tissue between your fingers, you can get it at quite a fine point. Just drawing that along the top of the clouds to give the impression of that lovely silver lining that we hear so much about. And now I'm coming in again and emphasizing the clouds. I'm going to be putting a few more in again with my Escoda mop brush. You can see how much paint it holds here. Really lovely, lovely brush. Yeah, just going in and popping in a few more clouds. This is a mix of the violet and ultramarine that I'm using for now. I think these two colours work really beautifully together. You can see here that as the painting progresses, I'm having to go back in with my my little scrunched up piece of tissue and reapply the lighter lines along the tops of the clouds. This is something you must keep in mind when doing these sorts of skies. Obviously it's watercolour, it's wet, it's running all over the place, so sometimes you really need to keep an eye on it. So if you're pulling paint out using tissue or a damp brush, if the rest of your paper is wet and the rest of your paint is wet, sometimes it will simply seep back into the gap that you've left. So you can't sort of pull it out and think, oh well, that's done, and then ignore it and concentrate on another area. It always serves good purpose to keep an eye on it and just go back in if necessary and keep pulling that paint out until it sits where you want it to. And now that I'm happy with my sky, I'm coming in and I'm doing my sea using very much the same technique in order to mirror the sky in the sea below. So again, I'm beginning with some very light gamboge yellow and my flat brush, just spreading that around, making a reflection of sorts, an imitation of the same shape that I created in the sky. And now I'm coming in with a bit of the raw sienna to give a little depth to the colour again. And there we are, you see that? I just sprayed the lower part of the paper with my water spray because I realised that I forgot to wet the paper beforehand. I did consider just saying, oh yes, well, you know, I meant to do that, but we all make mistakes and I think it's only fair that we own up to them, especially when they've been caught on camera. But as you can see, the water is helping that paint to run beautifully. And I'm just filling in the sea with some more ultramarine blue, getting that horizon line put in there with my flat brush, and I'm going to be blending all these colours together, hopefully into a really nice, beautiful reflective sea. Adding in my violet here, you can see I'm using the edge of the flat brush to pull the paint around. Obviously the sea, the water is rippling, in theory anyway, you know, in sort of horizontal lines, so I wanted to use the flatness of that brush to pull some of the blue and violet paint into the yellow spill of light, to give the impression of the moving sea. The lovely thing about flat brushes, they're ever so versatile. I think there should be a couple in everybody's watercolour arsenal, so to speak. And once again, I'm using my scrunched up piece of tissue, a clean piece, I should say, clean piece this time, to pull some more of the yellow paint out of that centre, to imitate the top and to show, you know, get a little bit of extra light in there, a little bit of brightness. You can also see that in the sea, I've left a couple of sort of strips of white paper close to the headland. I haven't coloured it in entirely, because I like to see a little bit of white through my paper, and I thought this would be a nice way to denote sort of the surf and breaking waves that you often get around a headland such as this. And you can see I'm using my flat brush again to fill in the headland now. For this land I decided to use a mixture of burnt umber and light red, a lovely rich colour here. I should also mention that between doing the sea and doing the land, I took the painting and I dried it. I dried it using my hairdryer. Carefully, I might add. Yes, so there isn't a concern for the paint to spill over and start mingling. My sea and sky are completely dry, which is why I'm now going in with these lovely rich colours to add a little bit of extra oomph. You can see I'm switching up between my flat brushes. This one is a size 2, significantly smaller than the size 10. Using it in the same way, sort of using that lovely flat sort of chisel edge to get a nice flat headline, pull some of the paint around and start to put in some lights and darks on the headland to give it a bit of dimensionality. Right, now that that colour has dried, you can see that I've removed the masking fluid from the lighthouse and from the little houses. It's done its job beautifully. I can highly recommend this brand of masking fluid. I'll pop it in the description below. And I'm using my small brush. This is a tiny synthetic round brush, size 000, I believe, to just begin to put in the detail here. This last few bits of detail that are just going to bring this painting together. For the roofs of the houses, you can see I'm not filling them in 100%. Again, I'm leaving a little bit of white space, which I think is really important to give sort of texture when you're doing small buildings like this. It's a nice shortcut, I think, to make them look a bit more realistic. And the colour I'm using is basically a variation on this burnt umber and light red that I used for the land, but I've added a good dollop of violet to it and a little bit of ultramarine. Sort of zhuzhed that all up on my palette and it came up with this sort of lovely sort of muddy neutral sort of colour, which I'm very happy with. And you can see I've just used it to pop in the windows and doors on the houses as well. And you can see here I'm just dry brushing the houses a little using my small brush and only a very little paint, brushing it very lightly over the texture of the cold pressed paper that I'm using, just so that it picks up a little bit of paint and helps the front of the houses look a little bit sea-worn and weather-worn. So for the lighthouse, I'm again using my fine brush and a variation on that muddy colour that I used for the houses, and I'm just gently starting to fill in the details. You can see the top, the sort of domed part, I'm leaving partially unpainted on the left side to give the imitation of the light reflecting off the roof of the lighthouse. You can see that on the left, that's where the sun is coming from, and that's the side that I want to look like it's reflecting the light. And that is a nice dollop of gamboge yellow there in the light part of the lighthouse. A nice little bit of yellow light, because of course with this deep purple sky you can see the evening is setting in and soon it will be night, so of course the light is shining bravely. And you can see here that I'm bringing in my light red colour and dry brushing it over these couple of stripes on the lighthouse, putting it in quite carefully, giving it that lovely weather-worn appearance, again using to my advantage the lovely texture on this cold press paper to give this lovely effect. And again you can see I'm keeping things a bit darker on the right hand side of the lighthouse, letting the light hit it from the left hand side, or at least giving the impression. And you can see there that just dry brushing that white part of the lighthouse as well, very lightly, with my sort of neutral muddy colour, just gives it that weather-worn impression and stops it being so so brightly white, so to say. And for the last sort of finishing touches, I'm going to put in some foliage. This is a small tree that I'm putting in here, keeping it in the same scale as the houses, using my nice sort of muddy neutral colour that I mixed up, and my very fine 000 synthetic brush. And you can see what I'm actually doing here is probably not great for the brush, admittedly, but I've got a bit of paint on it and I'm sort of smushing it, dry brushing really, again over sort of the edges of the branches I've drawn in, just to give a quick and easy way to give the impression of a tree full of leaves. I would probably advise using a small stippling brush for that, but I don't have one, which is why I'm making do. And just quickly scrubbing in a little bit more foliage there, some sort of coastal shrubbery of some sort. Just putting in a little bit of extra detail, just making this spit of land really look a bit more lived in and a little bit more alive. And there we have it. The painting is finished. I thought this time I would include the unmasking, so to speak, of the painting. For me, this is always such a satisfying part, stripping off that dirty masking tape and seeing those lovely clean white edges appear that just seems to make the painting look so much more finished somehow. So yes, I find this very satisfying. I hope that you do as well. And I hope that you enjoyed watching this painting. I really hope you like it and that perhaps you take something away from it, perhaps feel inspired to do something similar of your own. Thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate it, especially if you made it all the way to the end of this video. Congratulations, I know it's a long one. But yeah, thank you for being here, friends. I hope to see you all in the next video. Please leave a like on this one if you enjoyed it, and definitely subscribe to my channel if you are interested in seeing some more painting. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.